my task for today is to talk about the different collaboration opportunities that we have as a community moving forward here in 2023. We've already got quite a lot of great ideas that are already out on the table, and want to throw out some new ideas for folks to be aware of and think about. And also, I'm going to be engaging you all in several opportunities for you to provide your input here about other opportunities we can look for collaborations. So happy New Year and welcome. We'll start the new year where we should, which is to restate our mission. Odyssey's mission is to improve health by empowering a community to collaboratively generate the evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care. So as we think about setting 2023 resolutions, I think the theme that you'll hopefully get out of today is that it's going to be all about collaboration and all about trying to find ways to enable each of us to generate evidence. I see several new names in our roster of folks that are coming today. So if this is your first Odyssey call, welcome. So I hope that you'll continue to be on the journey with us. One thing I want to orient everybody to is how we think about conceptually collaborating. We collaborate in the areas of methods research, open source development, data standards, and clinical evidence generation. And we do that through a series of work group activities. And so when some people talk about Odyssey and collaborations, they're really thinking about how different subgroups within our community are coming together on all of these different topics. And as Claire just highlighted with the CDM work group, there's a lot of interdependencies between these different activities. So if you're interested in data standards, it's important to understand how that's going to interface with open source development and vice versa. Odyssey also has the world's largest observational data network, and this is a distributed data network. So the data standards that we're developing in our collaborations and the open source tools lay the foundation for us to enable data partners from all around the world to have the opportunity to collaborate. And with that infrastructure in place, we conduct Odyssey network studies, which basically means anybody who is interested in asking a clinical question can design a study, write a protocol, and specify an analysis. And any data partners anywhere in the world have the opportunity to voluntarily participate in that study by downloading the analysis code that uses our standardized analytics, runs against the OMOP common data model, and share back not patient-level data, but aggregate summary statistics so that we can collaboratively interpret those findings and disseminate the evidence in various forums, including publications. So we've had this picture since George published it a few years ago, but in 2023, we're actually I'm going to try to summarize a little deeper dive into how we can do these things and where there are opportunities for even more collaborations together. So one of the first things that I want to emphasize is that we're trying to empower our community to collaborate through our work groups. And we have a large collection of work groups, and it's really wonderful to have so many work group leaders within our community who are leading efforts across a wide range of collaboration opportunities. Craig mentioned the different work group meetings that are taking place this week, and every week we kind of summarize what's going on. But if you look at the range of activities that we have, we've got various work groups that are focused on open source development, whether it be R packages like we're maintaining in Hades, or web-based tools like we're developing in Atlas. We've got work groups that are focused on data standards like what Claire mentioned for the common data model, as well as data quality assessment, but there are also various specialty groups that are focusing on thinking about data standards and extensions to the common data model, whether it be in clinical areas like oncology, in eye care, psychiatry, or whether it be in specific areas like GIS and natural language processing. We also have groups that are like-minded in terms of their clinical interests and are thinking about how to collaborate in research. And that can be with whether it be clinical areas like oncology or psychiatry, or also we have our newest work group, our dentistry work group, focusing on specific areas that we can center on. Each of these work groups has its own leadership, its own group that is trying to figure out what they're going to do. And one of our 2023 resolutions is to make sure that everybody in the community is fully aware of all the collaboration opportunities that are going on. So as Craig mentioned, all the work group leads will be providing a statement of purpose for their work group and a set of objectives and key results by the end of this month. And as Craig showed, throughout February, we'll be showcasing all of these work groups to have them present on a community call and encourage all of you to participate. So for those of you who are still looking for opportunities to get involved and contribute to the community, this will be a great chance for you to learn about the work groups, see what they're doing, and find ways for you to fit in. And also even for those of you who have been part of work groups, I really encourage you to listen and look for those areas of connections, because I think one of the things we're really trying to strive for is to figure out how to enable collaborations within and across our work groups to be more effective as a community. In addition to our work groups that take place in this community call that's every week and our work groups that meet on a regular cadence, we're also going to be having larger scale community collaboration events that take place in 2023. We'll have multiple in-person events that are already at least in the planning. I want to thank Peter Reinbeck, who has graciously volunteered to have Erasmus MC host the next Odyssey Europe Symposium. It will be sometime in June, the exact dates to be determined, but it'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday in June, and it'll be great to have an opportunity to bring folks together, particularly in our European region. Nicole Pratt is going to be hosting the Odyssey APAC Symposium. That will be this year in Sydney, Australia, July 14th through 15th. And that's actually right after the MedInfo conference. So I'm really thankful to Nicole for hosting that and looking forward for folks to be able to come together. And I'm personally really looking forward to going to Australia for the first time. So that's going to be a wonderful opportunity to collaborate and have some fun. And then the Odyssey Global Symposium, Deborah mentioned about last year's symposium was back in October. We still intend, the Odyssey Central Coordinating Center under George Ripsack's leadership, we intend to host the symposium. Elise Katzman does a great job always to try to coordinate not only our work group activities, but our global symposium. And she's again on the prowl to set this up. We don't yet have dates, but we're investigating some options of where this will be. It'll be somewhere in the United States, probably on the East Coast somewhere, and we'll finalize a location and date very shortly. So those are going to be specific in-person meetings that we're looking forward to providing an opportunity for folks to get together. In addition, we're going to be looking to host a series of virtual events as well. Paul Nagy is going to be, again, leading our DevCon, our developer conference, which was a great event that we started for the first time last year and look forward to revisiting that. And our work group, our phenotype development and evaluation work group leads, Gautam Rao and Azza Shwabi are going to be helping us lead our Phenotype February activity, which we ran to great success last year to have a month focused on a really important critical area of our community. We're going to do that again. And one thing that we're going to bring up, which most on the call probably don't remember, but quite a while ago, we held the first Save Our Sisyphus Challenge, which was an opportunity to run a community network study live during these community calls. And we're going to resurrect that idea just with some particular improvements, hopefully improvements. So it's going to be an opportunity for any of you in the community to actually lead a community-wide event that'll take place in the next couple months. So for those of you who have not been to an Odyssey Symposium, they're always a good time. It's a great opportunity to bring together people and not only present work that you've done, but also look forward to new collaboration opportunities. So it was really great that we were able to have in-person events again last year, and I'm really looking forward to having another opportunity to see you all in person this year through these various meetings we'll be holding. For those of you who missed the Odyssey Devcon last year, just provided you the link. It was a great virtual activity for those that are interested, whether you are an open source developer yourself or you're just an active user of some of the open source tools that the Odyssey community makes. We make that available. And for those of you who don't remember the fun we had last year with Phenotype February, we had 28 days, 28 phenotypes, and a lot of active discussions about the science of phenotyping and the clinical applications across our data network. And so I'm eager for us to resume having conversations about how to improve the science of phenotyping and ultimately develop shared work products that we can use as a community for all of our studies moving forward. Many of you may have at least seen those, and I encourage you to be a more active participant in all of these events here in 2023. One thing probably most of you on this call don't actually remember, though, is way back in 2017, we had this harebrained idea that we would just ask the community on the forum to see if anybody had a good clinical question, and then we would try to, as quickly and efficiently as we could, walk through the steps of running a network study on the question that somebody volunteered, and try to take that question from all the way through the journey from data to evidence and all the way to the dissemination of results. So we posted our first Save Our Sisyphus challenge to recognize that doing network studies are hard, but that this community is here to help each other do it. The first researcher who had their question identified was Yisik Kim, who raised a question about the comparative safety and effectiveness of treatments for osteoporosis. And indeed, the work that we did as a community led to a network study publication in Scientific Reports, highlighting the results of this exercise. So we did this a long time ago with, let's say, mixed experience, but ultimately did deliver on producing a network study. And one of the things, as the steering work group was reflecting on last year, we were thinking about the fact that Kristen specifically wanted to make sure that everybody heard loud and clear that even though we've made progress since 2017, network studies are still hard. And network studies are very hard for lots and lots of reasons. And so rather than shying away or saying, why aren't people just doing more network studies, we needed to figure out an approach to recognize that network studies are hard and figure out a way for us to collaborate more directly on how to make sure that we are able to take advantage of the world's largest data network to generate reliable evidence that is in line with the mission of what we're trying to do in Odyssey. So we're going to give our Save Our Sisyphus challenge a second round. Our 2023 resolution is that we think the best way to help people learn how to do network studies is to do a network study together. And so together, over the course of a couple months in April and May, we are going to collaboratively as a community identify an important research question. We're going to collaboratively design an analysis. We're going to collaboratively execute that across our data network. And then we're going to collaboratively interpret the results and disseminate the findings. I'm going to talk more about our Save a Sisyphus challenge later in the month as we actually open up the call for questions. But I want you all to be ready and hopefully excited to join us in this collaborative activity that we'll do over the course of the months. Another thing that we recognize is that Odyssey isn't just we're not trying not just to be our own echo chamber, but we recognize that this can just be a forum to enable collaborations externally as well, whether that be scientific conferences, abstract or paper submissions, collaborative grants, requests for information, call for papers. And so one of our 2023 resolutions is to make sure that we actively monitor for external collaboration opportunities and promote them within our community. And we are thankful that Andrew Williams has volunteered to take on this active landscape assessment and monitoring of these opportunities. And we'll make sure to communicate them using this call and other forums so that if you have a good idea of how you can be collaborating within Odyssey and want to showcase that work elsewhere, either through any of these forums, that we have the opportunity to communicate and take advantage of those opportunities. One thing in preparation for this year that I tried to do was identify some of the opportunities that I was aware of. And so I've put together this very psychedelic Odyssey community calendar. And I'm actually going to take a couple minutes to go through the things that I'm aware of. And specifically because I'm hoping that as I go through this, you'll use the chat or other things to say what I've missed, because I'm sure I've missed a heck of a lot. We're here in January. Every Tuesday, Craig Saxon will be doing a great job of leading our community calls, and those are all colored in green, so you don't forget them. Actually, actively going on right now is the International Conference for Health Policy Statistics. Frank DeFalco gave a session on Odyssey just, I think, yesterday, and that conference is still going on with several members of the community. Highlighting that later this week is the submission deadline for ISPOR. So anybody who's interested in collaboration there, you've got a deadline coming up. As Craig mentioned, we've already got our plans for the community calls for the rest of this month. I'll also highlight that our work group leads, you all owe me your OKRs by the end of January. Leading into February, I mentioned that Aza and Gautam will help lead us through our Phenotype February month throughout the month, but also there's various conference deadlines that are coming up. Those interested in the joint statistics meeting, abstract deadlines are February 1st. Those interested in the International Congress of Pharmacoepidemiology, that's abstract deadlines are February 13th. So I want you to be aware of that. Rolling into March, we're going to host our first of the year Odyssey Workgroup Leader Summit, tentatively scheduled for March 3rd. And so we'll send out details of that. And in March is when we're going to actually open up voting for which clinical question we're going to do as part of our Save Our Sisyphus Challenge. And we're going to have the month to vote, and then we're going to kick off the Save Our Sisyphus Challenge at the end of March. Throughout April and May, we're going to walk through specific tutorials of each of the steps that it takes to run an Odyssey network study. We're going to execute those steps for our study that we agreed to as a group. And during the week, we're going to support each other in executing the studies across our network. So I hope all of you who have access to data will be a data partner, and all of you who want to contribute to the study will, earmark this opportunity to participate. Also in April, on April 12th, is the submission deadline for ML for HC submissions. That event's actually being hosted at Columbia University this year. So I really doubly hope that you'll participate there, just so I can see you on campus. That'll be fun. We also will host our DevCon event. Paul's still working on the deadline, but working on the dates, but tentatively we're earmarking sometime in late April to host that virtual event. Rolling into May, many of you may be attending ISPOR. It's in Boston this year. Some of you may be interested in the American Causal Inference Conference, which is in Austin, Texas this year. Coming into June, as I mentioned, Peter Reinbeck will be hosting the Odyssey Europe meeting. It'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday in June, but we don't know exactly which dates yet. Still working on the logistics there. The Rue Center at Northeastern will be hosting the AI in Pharmaceutical Medicines Conference, which will be in Portland, Maine. And Kristen's quite keen to see active participation there, and maybe even be able to piggyback on an Odyssey face-to-face meeting for those who are able to make a fun trip up to Portland, which is always a good time. So I encourage you to consider joining that. Some of you may be interested in the Drug Information Association Conference, which is in Boston this year. Rolling into July, MedInfo is in Sydney, Australia from the 8th through the 13th. I know we had multiple Odyssey submissions there, so that's exciting to see us represented, and particularly given that Nicole Pratt will be hosting Odyssey APAC a few days afterwards. That's going to be a great time to be together there. In August, I'm aware of the joint statistics meeting that's going to be held in Toronto, as well as ML for HC in New York in the first full week of August. And then the ISPI conference will be in Halifax, Nova Scotia, the last week in August. The Odyssey Global Symposium, we don't have dates finalized, but we're looking at a potential date in late October. So hope that you'll figure out how to plan to come join us there. And for those of you who may be interested, the International Society of Pharmacovigilance meeting is in Bali, so that's not awful. So if you didn't yet plan to go there, you may want to know now that that's where it is. And those of you who are participating in the American Medical Informatics Association, the annual conference will be in New Orleans this year. So this is just trying to provide everybody an idea of all the opportunity, or some of the opportunities to collaborate in the community. I know of at least somebody in our community that's actively engaged in all of these different meetings, and I hope that there will be more, and that we can look as an opportunity to bring folks together at all of these venues. I am very conscious of the fact that I probably missed an awful lot, so I want to open up a poll everywhere right now and ask you guys to Put that right up there. I'll put it in the chat, but you can just go to pollev.com/PatrickRyan800. And if you could, I've listed all of those conference and meeting events that I just went through on the calendar. And if you're interested in engaging in them, it'd be great if you could upvote them. But if I missed meetings, which I'm sure that I probably did, if you could add whatever collaboration opportunities that you see through scientific conferences, that would be wonderful. So I'll take a minute here to let you guys go to pollev.com/PatrickRyan800. Look through the list of collaboration opportunities that we've got. Vote up the ones you're planning to participate in, and add any that I missed. All right, I'm just going to take a scroll through here. See what. Not the old school Odyssey face-to-face. So hopefully, maybe folks will be heading on up to Portland if Kristen's able to pull that off for us. That would be good fun. I missed the AMIA Informatics Summit. That's a one I missed. Sorry about that. Oh, the RStudio conference. That's actually a good opportunity for collaboration too. That's one to definitely consider. The Society for Epidemiologic Research, that's another one I got to add to the list that I missed. Okay, so I'm going to keep that open for just a second, but I want to also, just part of the reason to have you do this is to recognize that for all of those things that you voted on, if you voted on and you're seeing a number that's greater than 1, that means that's a collaboration opportunity for you. That means there's somebody else going to the same place who probably is a kindred spirit and has an opportunity to talk about how you could be collaborating. So as we move forward throughout the year and look at these different events, I want to encourage you to think about how to reach out to each other and create opportunities to foster those relationships even further. And it looks like throughout the year, there's going to be many, many of these opportunities to participate. Awesome. All right, I'll leave that open for a second because you didn't get all your votes in. I'm going to keep forward with my presentation. So in October last year, George and I presented future directions of Odyssey, and we kind of laid out some of the big items that we thought would be exciting to explore and some of the foundational pillars that we think are necessary to move forward. And one of the pictures that Kristen said she liked was an augmentation of a slide we typically use in Odyssey, which is we focus on thinking about our evidence use cases. That is, namely, we are using observational data to generate information about clinical characterization. So this is descriptive studies that explain, what happened to them. This could be disease natural history or treatment utilization or incidence rates, but foundational understanding about populations. We collaborate in population level effect estimation. So this is causal inference, asking what is the causal effect of an intervention. This can be for safety surveillance or comparative effectiveness work. And we also collaborate in patient level prediction, trying to infer what will happen to me. So applying machine learning algorithms for problems of disease interception and precision medicine. And one thing that's common across all those use cases is if we want to enable any of those things to happen within the Odyssey community, that's based on a foundation of needing to have standardized vocabularies, a standardized data network, and standardized open source tools to situate this work of evidence generation. And so last year, George and I talked about what we think are opportunities for maintaining these foundational pillars and some of the strategic priorities that we need to set for this year. And I'm excited to see that several members of the community have taken these on as their own targeted priorities for this year. And so I just want to talk through them briefly. As it relates to standardized vocabularies, the thing that we highlighted is that we need to increase transparency and maturity of our vocabulary development and evaluation process. And we proposed very specifically that we were going to conduct a landscape assessment to understand the community's needs. From that, we're going to develop a code of conduct and developer guidelines, disseminate a vocabulary process and an end user documentation roadmap, establish a centralized development infrastructure, create a standardized test development approach, and then build out a vocabulary version release distribution service. So these are all things that we aim to do in the vocabulary space. I'm very appreciative that Anna Ostropolitz is taking this on in earnest, and she's leading the activity, starting with conducting the landscape assessment to understand community needs. So later this month, she will present on our community call to talk about the work necessary to advance our vocabulary improvement efforts, and which will start with conducting this landscape assessment. So all of you will be receiving repeated pings from Anna and me and others, pushing you to participate and provide your input as it relates to how to guide the vocabulary work, and strongly encourage, or I will insist that you all participate because it's necessary for you to hear, for us to hear from you as we guide our vocabulary work moving forward. Our second pillar of standardizing a data network, we recognized a need to increase transparency and maturity of our Odyssey data network, and we proposed really 3 cross-cutting efforts. We want to establish an Odyssey data network catalog that encourages network studies across interested partners and promote data quality practices. We want to be able to generate an Odyssey network concept prevalence data set and making it accessible for anybody who's using Atlas, so that when you are doing phenotype development, you can think about the network as a whole and not just your own local data source. And we want to promote the use of database diagnostics by having data partners share some limited set of summary statistics that can allow for the community to identify which data sources are fit for use in satisfying study criteria, so that we can actually enable network studies more fluidly. So I'm appreciative that Claire Blacketer has taken this on and is part of the data quality work group, which I think will broaden to be our data network quality work group. This will be a strategic priority that group will be driving. And so anybody's interested in participating in that should join Claire in that work group. But also all of you who are data partners, I hope that you will join in participating in being part of this catalog and part of this data diagnostic solution. And so it is, yes, definitely going to be 2023, the year of vocabs and the year of network, but that's not all. Our pillar number 3 is to standardize open source tools. And we recognize the opportunity to increase the adoption and the ease of use of our Hades packages and other Odyssey open source analytic tools such as Atlas. And we proposed 4 specific solutions for this. We want to create a central infrastructure to enable testing of all the Odyssey tools against each of the supported database platforms. We wanted to establish a referent benchmark study that all organizations can execute to demonstrate that the Odyssey tool stack is operational. We want to improve our documentation and educational materials to promote the adoption of the Odyssey tools. And more broadly, we want to encourage greater community support of the open source development activities, because we need more contributors and maintainers of all of these solutions. And so when George presented this last year, I was really thankful to see so many members of the community kind of grab the baton and run with this. Really thankful for Lee Evans, who has agreed to continue to support our central infrastructure within the coordinating center and to help be the point of focus for helping us to create a central infrastructure to enable testing of our Odyssey tools. Lee's already been doing this, but we're going to be much more heavy-handed in what the requirements are to make sure that we're actually handling the platform support more thoroughly this year. Specifically, what I mean by that, for those of you who have been following our open source development, and particularly the work that Martijn Schumi has been leading in the Hades community, you know that we talk about platform support. And even if you go to the front page of Hades, you'll see this paragraph of technology that says Hades is a set of R packages that execute against data in a database server. And Hades supports traditional database systems, parallel data warehouses, as well as other big data platforms, and lists out a set of databases. And it's been a long-standing conversation in the community about what does it mean to support and how do you actually ensure that you actually are supporting things correctly. And one of the challenges that we have is if we're going to make a claim of support, it actually means that we have to be able to test our tools against the technology, we can't just say we hope it works. We actually need to verify that it works. But the other real challenge is that if we're going to be a community that supports the technology, it can't just be on the developers to magically know how to make stuff work across all of these different technologies. We actually need a community of experts and users of each of the technologies. And so the truth of the matter is, while we've been talking about support, and Martine's done an amazing job with SQL Render as an example of a package that tries to work across these platforms, it's not fair, and I'd actually assert outright inappropriate, to claim we support a platform if we can't test our software. And it's also unfair to the users of our software to believe that something is working that's claimed to be supportive if it's actually never been able to be tested. So a 2023 resolution that we have is that we're going to try to harden our approach to our open source development. When we say support, that's going to actually impose two requirements of our community. The first is that all supported relational database management systems must be available to all developers with a test CDM to allow unit tests to run via Git actions. Now, we have some of these already in place, but many of those databases listed as supported now, we don't actually have. And so we need to actually get this in place so that it's an honest statement that we can say our software actually passed tests on these different platforms. The second thing that we've actually been missing all along is that we actually don't know as a community who the heck uses all of these different platforms. And so I'm going to assert that what we need in 2023 is that if you're going to be a supported platform, we need to actually have a platform user group, which is some set of individuals in our community who are actually using a platform. And we need somebody in that group to be designated the platform champion to ensure that the community is participating in the development of our software. This is going to be a requirement that we're going to impose to harden our development processes, which means that any platform that does not provide a test environment and does not have a platform user group by the middle of the year, we are no longer going to consider that to be supported software in Odyssey. If you're getting anxious about that, worried about what about my platform, well, there's a clear solution. Make an environment available to test and be part of your platform user group. And we being the broader Odyssey community, Martine and I talked about this yesterday. We are completely agnostic to what technology we make available to the community. We just need to know that we're putting effort in the right place to support the community. So with that as a context, I want to ask you guys to do one more survey on pollev.com. I want to know amongst you on the call right now, what relational database management platform are you using for your OMOP CDM and Odyssey research? And so if you can go to poll, oops, that's activated, sorry, make that presented. There you go. You guys should now be able to vote at pollev.com/PatrickRyan800. And you should be able to enter in your platform that you are using. So any of you that have downloaded the vocabulary and stuck it into a database, any of you have got a CDM, anybody who's just doing research and connecting to the database, you probably have to at least know what kind of database platform you're using. So I want you to go ahead and vote. Maybe some of you actually use multiple environments, and that's totally okay too. And if you are not on the list that I had pre-specified, you can add extras, and that's totally okay too. One of the things that, as Martine and I were talking yesterday, we realized is that list of databases that were quasi-claimed as supported, it's kind of bad on our part that we legitimately have no idea who uses which of those platforms. And so it's not even inconceivable that we are supporting a platform that none of y'all are using, while also not supporting platforms that somebody claims that they're using. So let's see what we've got here. So we've got 16 of you on this call are claiming you're using Postgres. 13 are claiming you're using Redshift. You got another 13 on SQL Server. We got 9 of you using Databricks. We'll talk about that in just a second. 6 of you using Snowflake. Well, 7 now using Snowflake. That's not a supported database. You got 5 of you using Spark. 3 of you using SQLite. You got 3 of you using Google BigQuery. A couple claiming that you're using Microsoft Access. I don't know if that's a joke or not. I hope so, but the 2 of you should definitely figure out how you want to solve that problem. And then we've got a couple onesies in here. Interestingly, we've got a few onesies of some of the supported environments. Now, the reason I'm having you all do this to put this in is if there are 17 of you that are all using Redshift, well, that's an opportunity to think about how we collaborate as a Redshift user group, because there are issues particular to Redshift that we could actually collaborate on and solve together. If 17 of you are using Postgres, then you guys should be part of a Postgres group to share your common challenges and develop solutions together. And so we will establish these platform user groups, or PUGs. For those of you that are dog lovers, you can create your own logo for your own platform user group. But we actually need you guys to get together and think about this. If you think about from the perspective of a developer, I have to give a big shout out to like Chris Knoll. I have no idea how he helped so many of you by trying to debug your questions when you bombard him with questions about it doesn't work in my environment. And he doesn't even have access to your environment or know what the heck you're talking about, but somehow he tries to help you best you can. So does Martine, so do many members, and Adam, and many of the developers in our community. But it's an unfair ask to a developer to say, can you make my software work in an environment you've never worked on? And so we really need to change that paradigm and shift the perspective about this. So this is something that we'll be pushing this year, and I think it's going to help us harden our software and also build greater collaborations in terms of the platforms we use. All right. So in addition to that, in Pillar 3, we also said that we wanted to establish a referent benchmark study. And so I'm thankful that Martine has taken the charge to add this to the OKRs of the Hades work group. And I think there'll be a good opportunity to make sure that everybody really knows how to use the software that we've got. And also give a shout out to Paul and Adam, who as part of the open source community work group are really doing a great job to try to encourage greater community support of our development. And I know they've been actively working on their OKRs about what we're going to do this year to push that. So I want to thank everybody for taking on board these responsibilities. Now, where I want to end things is one more survey. I've just talked for way too long, and I got to open this up here. One more. All right. So I've just outlined for you that there's various community. Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to make a comment about Databricks. Databricks is a good example and a motivator of a platform for why we need to satisfy these 2023 objectives. Because very explicitly, we do not have a test environment for Databricks, and we don't have community coordinated expertise in Databricks. And yet there's been a good number of people posting issues about how software in Odyssey doesn't work in Databricks. There's two solutions to that problem. Let's make Databricks a supported platform, or don't pretend that the software is going to work in Databricks. We are totally fine with it being a supported platform. I'd love for that to happen. But what that requires is, as a community, we need to create a test environment for Databricks. Thus far, we have been unsuccessful in getting anybody to contribute a test environment of Databricks with a test CDM that we can run things on. But we're hoping that, given that there's multiple of you using Databricks, that collectively you can figure out how to provide that resource and support to the community. And secondly, since apparently there's a bunch of you using Databricks, you all need to come together and figure out what are the problems with Databricks and help us as a community make software work for Databricks. I think that's a totally reasonable and reasonable thing to happen. What's not reasonable is to imagine that software that isn't tested against Databricks is going to magically work. And so since there are multiple of you using Databricks and that's not a current supported platform, I want to be very 100% clear about it. I'm fine for it to be a supported platform. All you got to do is provide a test environment and create a platform user group, and we will make it work. But in absence of those two things, it's not going to be a supported platform because we can't guarantee that software that's never been tested magically works on some environment we don't have access to. So hope that you all will come together, those of you that are Databricks enthusiasts, to figure that out. All right, so I just spoke for way too long, way too fast about all the collaboration opportunities that I see in 2023, whether that be our Odyssey events, our collaboration activities, our in-person events, our virtual activities, the external conferences and other collaboration opportunities that Andrew's going to highlight, as well as our strategic pillars that we've got leadership focused on, as well as the set of resolutions that we laid out. What I want to do is hear from you all, and hopefully this is one of you posted here. So are there other collaboration opportunities that you're looking forward to in 2023? Feel free to enter in your own thoughts, comments, and questions. And also, I'm also happy if anybody wants to unmute and shout out their own thoughts for where we're going in 2023. I'd love to hear from you. So I'll just leave this open on the screen and see responses, but I'm also happy if you want to raise your hand in the chat, and Craig and I can monitor it and make sure that everybody gets a chance to comment about where you'd like to see us go here as a community in 2023.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Hey, Patrick, hey, and everybody else, how you guys doing? You know, I've been out from these meetings and I'm just coming back again. You know, I am an expert in what is the data field. So no matter what platform you may be dealing with, is something that I probably touched on. And so I was just wondering, hey, what group should I go to be that source for the community to that, you know, like you were saying, if you're having a problem with a platform or whatnot, we can help you right away with all the stuff. So who do I go to? Who is coordinating this type of thing so that we can begin kind of bringing strength and making this more tangible for the community?
Great, thanks, Tony. I appreciate you to volunteer that way. I think right this second, the two work groups that I think make sense that you'll see some of that work are in our open source development side. So Paul Nagy and Adam Black lead our open source community work group. And there we're trying to key in people who are looking for issues. And in particular, as it relates to the database platforms, there's just a ton of just Git issues of someone saying, I'm using Spark and this thing doesn't work. And those are opportunities just like take an issue and go after them. Also, Martijn Schumi and Mark Suchard lead the Hades work group. So specifically as it relates to the R packages that are being maintained, there's open issues about platforms there. These new platform user groups that we're going to establish, though, I'd love to have data expertise, even if you're a general purpose person and are comfortable with multiple platforms, to participate and engage in those user groups would be wonderful. So I think all of those are good opportunities to get you plugged in.
All right, thank you.
All right, we got multiple votes here for have a standard distribution of Odyssey software to promote stability and network study compliance. Martijn, you want to just comment? I know this is one of your other Hades objectives. You just want to comment briefly on that?
Sure. Yeah. So one idea that we have is that so Hades is a set of R packages, and basically that means that every R package has its own release cycle, but we also want to have Hades-wide release cycles. So currently thinking twice a year, we have a snapshot of the whole Hades ecosystem that is guaranteed to work together. And we also want to have some sort of a uber big study that touches on all of the functionality in all of the packages, combines them all together and demonstrates how they work together, but also just shows that it works. And that will be a benchmark that people can run in their own environment. And we could even use that to optimize the performance, to see where various sites have performance issues and try to solve them. So it's quite ambitious in its scope, I think, but also I think would be good to just make sure that all of Hades runs the way that it should.
Thanks, Martijn. I also think that when we do our Save Our Sisyphus challenge, what I really hope will happen is that we'll agree on a set of versions of the packages we're going to use to run the network study. And at that moment, those of you who participate, which I hope will be all of you, will be able to go download that snapshot of packages and use it consistently through that exercise. So for those of you who've never run a study, it'll be a great opportunity for you to, start with a clean R instance and go grab the right packages. And for those of you who have done some bits and pieces, but maybe have versions that are all over the place, it'll be an opportunity for you to kind of align on a common set of packages that have been demonstrated to successfully work together in our ecosystem. We just have a minute left. Anybody else have any other comments, questions? thoughts and reflections as we head into 2023? If not, Craig, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you all. Happy New Year. Really looking forward to collaborating with you on 2023.
Great. Thank you, Patrick, so much for that presentation. Certainly exciting to see all the work and the excitement about the work for the year ahead. If you want to rewatch any part of this presentation, a reminder, we do it the same way as we do it every year. There is the community calls page now. All the 2022 calls have been moved to a separate page. It is linked now, but the main community calls page will be the home for all the 2023 calls. So this presentation will be available later, as well as all of the updates, and we'll keep doing that on a weekly basis. I'm going to throw that link there in the chat. But thank you for joining. Thank you, Patrick, for leading this presentation. Please do join us next week for our fun speed dating call. I do think you'll enjoy it. Have a great day. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.